Hey everybody, good evening. My name is Andrew Young, and I wanted to take a few minutes tonight to talk about a concert I just got in the door from, Lindsey Stirling and Evanescence at Jiffy Lube Live in Bristow, Virginia. This was a really important show I wanted to talk about. This was my girlfriend's birthday present. I took her to this show. She's a huge Evanescence fan. She grew up with Evanescence, and she made so many memories in her childhood from this band. And ultimately, I wanted to take her to a show and really kind of have her see all those memories come to life in the form of the music. And I had heard about Evanescence's recent tours with symphony orchestras, and I thought it would be a really nice curveball to a lot of their music that we grew up with. And so this tour was a really interesting premise. I wanted to see if it could come to life, and impressed me in a lot of ways, and it did. So I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about that. So, like I said, Evanescence has been touring over the past few years using a synthesis lineup. This is what they've referred to their tours that incorporate full symphony orchestras. And I was really interested to see how these arrangements would turn out in a live stage. And one thing I will say about this show is that between Evanescence and Lindsey Stirling, this was probably the most unique show I think I've ever seen. It was just such a curveball from what I'm used to as someone who's gone to over 70 different rock and metal concerts throughout the course of my 20 years on Earth. And it was something that was really a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed myself at this show, and I thought it kind of presented a unique perspective on how different genres and different elements of music can ultimately come together to create a cohesive piece. And so my first way I kind of want to dive into that is talk about Lindsey Stirling versus Evanescence in the sense of their cohesion, what they did differently from each other, what was kind of similar. And I started actually by looking on the Wikipedia pages for both acts. Evanescence is a pretty popular act that's been around for the past 20 years or so, and they've been really kind of known to stay in their lane of really kind of like emotional hard rock and heavy metal mixed with industrial. And one thing that was really interesting is I looked on their Wikipedia page, they stated that their influences include Pantera and Mozart. So there's really kind of cross genre here with Evanescence, which is interesting because in their catalog throughout the different albums you can really hear different influences, and tonight was no exception. They played a lot of classics, Lithium, Bring Me to Life, My Immortal, just a really bunch of really good songs. They didn't play a whole lot of deep cuts, but I didn't think that was necessary. I thought the hour and 20 minutes that we got from Evanescence was really all I really needed to hear from them to ultimately be content with that experience. But it was so interesting to see all these different songs from their catalog be translated into a full symphony orchestra setting. And I think that really helped with the cohesion between Lindsey Stirling and Evanescence, because Lindsey Stirling is obviously known for her violin playing, her dancing, and I thought the orchestra behind both of them really did a good job of being kind of a thing of consistency, a model of consistency, something that is common between both acts. Because, like I said, Evanescence was known for their more industrial, more hard rock, heavy metal influences in the early 2000s, and Lindsey Stirling kind of has an interesting mix of rock, metal, and dubstep, which was really cool. So to have that one model of consistency throughout the whole show, I think really made it more cohesive. And one thing I will say is that this atmosphere was really cool. So firstly, the crowd was really interesting. It was a mix of a lot of different types of people. It wasn't necessarily just teenagers. It wasn't necessarily 20-year-olds like myself and my girlfriend. It was a lot of older folks, which I thought was really cool. My girlfriend and I were actually talking about it. We weren't sure if they were there for Evanescence, for Lindsey Stirling, or just for the orchestra to experience it. And one thing that was really nice is despite all these different groups of people emerging, and there might be problems between different people in the audience possibly, this was one of the most, I guess it felt like a celebration in a sense. It felt like a celebration of two catalogs that are loaded with good songs, with rich histories and memories that are attached to people. And it was really cool. It was kind of like a unifying moment, I guess, because you can see how many different genres and music tastes and age groups that were just kind of brought together by a single thing. So for that reason, and then also the reason that there were just so many different things I wasn't expecting from this show, it ultimately made for probably the most unique experience I've ever had. For example, the whole show, everybody sat down, which a lot of people have kind of gripes with. They think it's kind of a respect thing to stand up for the acts that are playing, but it really kind of brought a new element. It didn't feel like I was necessarily at a rock concert. It felt like I was at a concert for an orchestra, which was really cool. The orchestra really had such a huge impact on the show, and just made it for a really unique experience that honestly I've never had before, and I don't know if I'll ever have again. So while I will personally tell all of you I'm not super well read on either Lindsey Stirling's catalog or Evanescence's, I can say that I enjoyed both of them because I thought they created such a unique, cohesive atmosphere that was really cool. And this show obviously meant a lot to my girlfriend as well, being that she grew up with that band in Evanescence. And one thing that was really cool is we got to the venue today and we weren't sure how many people were going to show up. And given that a lot of times Evanescence and Lindsey Stirling are known to play smaller venues, and the place was packed with people of, like I said, all different ages, races, stuff like that. One thing that was really cool is we got to the venue, we actually upgraded our seats. We were in the first row of the 100 section, which is right behind the pit. So we originally had lawn seats, and Live Nation had a concert concierge right by the door into the venue, and we went up there. We paid 20 extra bucks a seat, and we were in the front row of the VIP section, which I thought was really tight. So shout out Live Nation for doing a great job on that. But all in all, I really enjoyed myself at this concert. Despite not being a huge fan of either act, I really thought they did an amazing job putting on this show. And for that reason, and for the uniqueness of the orchestra, for the uniqueness of the environment, for the uniqueness of all the people that I saw, and all this, the kind of cohesive unit that everything was put together, and the intimacy, and Amy Lee talking to the audience and being super personable and sharing the stories behind the music, I think this is a concert that's going to stick with me for a long time. So I wanted to try to keep it brief, but those are my thoughts on this show. If this tour rolls through your town, if you're familiar with these acts, definitely go check it out. It's something interesting. It's a unique take on these two artists in Lindsey Stirling and Evanescence, and I hope you guys give it a shot. So hope you guys have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.